Hey, what is up guys, YouTube, and we are back here today with week 10 of the APA, and this week we're going to be facing off against Gator, as you can see on screen. Gator is currently 7-2, I believe, so he's doing really well. He's tied for second place, I think, at this stage with Panther. I think, or he might be in second based on differential, but either way, he's having a really good season, and yeah, Gator's got a team of threats. He's got this the Snivy, which is one of the best mons certainly in the format for Little Cup, and then he's got web support with Jupiter, which is a really cool mon. I think that mon is honestly really solid in the tier. And then he's got Magneton, which pairs really nicely, Magnemite I should say, which pairs really nicely with Snivy trapping steals for it. And then he's got Sand plus Alolan Diglett, which is a really solid threat because it hits that 19 speed too, which is really nasty versus a lot of teams and gets the boost in Sand. And he's got Totodile, which he's been using quite a lot recently, and it's been putting in a lot of work for him. Because Gator's likely to make playoffs, so I think he's kind of locked for it at this stage. I know he's kind of not going to be taking this match all too seriously, and chances are we may get to play again in the playoffs. So I think we'll be keeping some cards close to our chest, won't be giving away too many sort of team building ideas. And so I guess the teams we brought this week are kind of more a bit more laid back. But just running over the team we have here, I do have a Spikes Z Budju, so I'm actually Z Leafstorm here, which is a pretty big nuke versus this team. I've got the Focus Sash Corpitch, which can really come in clutch in a late game situation if he doesn't manage to get up rocks, and I need to get a big hit off versus something like the Magnemite or even the Snivy. I've got an Eviolite Spritzy, very solid here. I am rocking the Hidden Power Ground, so I can fire that off versus the Magnemite if he does want to switch that in as a pivot, because his team kind of lacks fairy responses outside of that one Steel type. Then I've got a Life Orb Meowth, pretty solid. It just kind of does what Meowth does. I have an Eviolite Volibee with Defog to prevent him from just beating me with webs up. And then lastly, I do have a Scarf Litleo. So that's going to be the team. Based on what Gator brought, this is looking like a pretty solid like webs offense kind of team at matchup. I'm thinking that he probably is webs on his Jupiter, or at least some sort of offensive Jupiter. He might be defensive because it does allow him to check Corpitch and Litleo better, but we're going to have to see jumping into it. I'm expecting probably like if I like Totodile, if I like Snivy, maybe like Scarf or like Berry Juice, or even Z on his Magnemite. Not too sure about the stuff, we'll have to see, and probably Life Orb Diglett. So we're going to jump right into the game. I want to thank Garchomp the God for joining my team this week, and I want to thank Panther for recording the game. So shout outs to those guys. But we're going to jump right into it. Gator is going to lead off with, I believe he leads off with his Diglett here, as I lead off with my Budju. Now this isn't really a matchup I want to see turn 1 of the game. I don't want to lose Budju because it's pretty important here for at least getting up a spike. And chances of him being Life Orb packing EQ, that is going to clean knock out my Budgie. So I'm going to go onto my Volibee here. Covers him going for Earthquake, also covers him making the Rocks play because I can just defog the following turn. Always threatening this thing with a Foul Play or the knockoff. Nothing really wants to get knocked off on his team either, so yeah, this is a pretty solid situation for me to just get those Rocks off the field. Preserving my Sash on my Corpitch, as he's actually going to bring in his Jupiter, which is kind of interesting because if I knocked off into Braidbird, this thing just died, but he's actually going to outspeed me here, revealing he's a Scarfed Jupiter here, so that's pretty interesting. He's Scarfed, and he gets the burn, which happens with Scald, but it is very unfortunate because it means the following turn my Braidbird isn't going to be able to kill this Jupiter, which it otherwise would have, so that's pretty unfortunate, but yeah, that's just, it happens, it's Scald. So I'm going to Roost this turn, wanting to scout out if he wants to make some kind of over prediction here. Perhaps I could have ended up this exchange at a higher amount of health, but he's just going to fire off the Surf. So Water Bubble Surf is doing a lot to my Violet Volibee, and because I have knocked off his Scarf now, he is free to click Giga Drain potentially on a turn if he wants to predict me going into something like Corpitch. And I'd rather just get damage off on this Jupiter because it is really a mon that's standing in the way of my Litleo clicking Flamethrower and cleaning in a late game situation. It's also a mon that kind of annoys my Corpitch if he is like timid max speed and ties with... Actually no, I think this thing hits 13 speed actually, so I think my Corpitch would outspeed him anyway. But He is going to take up my Volibee here after I end up just sacking my Volibee off to a Brave Bird there. If I hadn't got burnt that first turn, I would have been able to take him out the turn after I click knockoff, but unfortunately we are going to lose Volibee there as a result. And at this stage I am going to send in my Budgie here. Now Budgie's looking in a pretty solid position. I can just fire for Sleep Powder, as it will put the Sharpedoes to sleep, removing it from the game. And I will be able to fire for Spike the following turn. If he wants to stay in and try and burn a sleep turn, I at least get a Spike up, and I can take him out the following turn with a Sludge Bomb. But he's actually going to switch this turn, and he's going to bring in his Stuffle right here, his It's Berry, and this thing is like, this is an interesting swap for my Budgie. I am actually going to end up popping my Z Grass, my Z Leaf Storm here, because if this thing is not a Violite, it just drops. And if he is a Violite, that's great information. He's not like a banded mon that my Spritzy can't take on or something like that, and it means that one less thing on his team is a Violite. So we are going to fire off the Bloom Doom from my Budgie, and yeah, Budgie, really happy to have picked this thing up early on in the season. I did want it originally in the draft, but it was sniped from me, so I was happy to see this thing open up for my team to grab. As we get big damage off, we put Budgie to sleep, we put Jupiter to sleep, we get a Spike off, and we get huge damage off on this this Stuffle. So yeah, Budgie's really put in the work so far, and this is going to allow me to bring in my Litleo with the Spike up. Jupiter will die upon entry, so he is going to just stack off the Stuffle here, which is really solid for me. This is one threat out of the way, and yeah, at this point his Jupiter dies to the Spike, so he's more than likely going to switch something else out. And this is amazing. He goes down to Totodile, which is going to start giving me chip off on this mon, because if this is a Violite, Totodile takes hits pretty well because it is fairly naturally bulky. So I'm going to go out to my my Spritzy here. If he wanted to go for the Dragon Dance, I took a +2. I even take a +2 Waterfall actually from Sheer Force Totodile, and I would be able to get Moonblast damage off, put him in range of Meowth. But he's just going to go for the hard Waterfall here, as I am going to Wish Up this turn as he brings in his Magnemite. Preserving health on Spritzy is pretty nice for checking that Totodile in the late game, but right here I'm going to go for Protect, as his Magnemite is just going to fire off the Volt Switch. This made me think he could potentially be a Scarfed set, or even like Specs or something like that. But he's going to reveal Flash Cannon here, so he's obviously not choice locked. And this Flash Cannon is going to do a decent chunk, as I do Wish Up. I do have a lot of Spit Out from the Spritzy, so I comfortably obviously live the hit, but it's doing a lot of damage. And I'm going to Protect up this turn, as he is going to reveal he's just going to go for the Volt Switch here, I guess, not wanting me to switch into like Litleo or something here and receive the Wish Up. But I'd be kind of sacking my Spritzy off in that situation, because it'd come in at such low health. And right here, Gator's actually going to reveal the Z Electric, which is really cool, because this would have this was a really solid play on his part. It would have caught my Litleo trying to come in on a Flash Cannon. So I really like the way he preserved the Z move in the back. This is something I don't see players do often enough, like preserving the Z instead of just popping it early. I think it's a really good way to play a Z move mon. But Spritzy the God lives on one and is going to be able to knock out this Magnemite with the Hidden Power Ground here. So that it could have been like Z Thunder. I'm not really sure what actual. I'll have to watch his side to see what move that was. But otherwise, a very strong electric attack. And Spritzy lives on one. He is going to bring in his Totodile and takes another round of spikes, which is really nice for an endgame situation if this Totodile does stick around. So he's going to take out my Spritzy here, but Spritzy definitely pulled its weight. And yeah, it's really neck and neck at this stage in the game. We're kind of trading mon for mon. And Meowth is inside. Meowth is a big threat to his team, and he's going to make a really solid play, just sacking off the Jupiter here, not allowing any living mon on his team to take the fake out from Meowth. So yeah, very smart play. He is going to end up bringing in his Diglett here, and this is nice because if he wants to set up rocks, I can just knock him out here with a Water Pulse. He actually goes for the Earthquake. I didn't really have anything else on my team. I wanted to take an Earthquake. Everything else is pretty important. And Meowth ends up living on one and knocks him out with the Water Pulse. So like I said, this is just like offensive mon versus offensive mon. Things are dropping left and right, and Meowth is going to go down here, but not before taking Diglett down with it. So this is really solid. The fact that I got rid of Diglett means that yeah, my Corphish is really freed up. I don't have to worry about being a defensive response to that thing now. I can just use it essentially to take on this Totodile here, as he is actually going to withdraw on my knockoff. I believe I go for knockoff here, as his Snivy does come in. And yeah, his Snivy's going to get his Choice Scarf, no, his Berry Juice knocked off, and this is really solid for me. This means that he's just going to be further chipped. If he wants to switch out here, predicting me to make the double out into my Litleo, he's going to have to take Spikes the next time he comes in, and he's going to be closer in range of my Aqua Jet. But he's actually going to go for Glare, which is a really good play. Glare covered me going into Litleo, which was really obvious because I probably do need my Corphish to win this game versus my Totodile, and he probably knows that. But what he doesn't know is that I'm like Focus Sash and very fast on my Corphish. So he's going to go for Glare here and get a crit. It's not really going to matter because I am going to be able to break through Paralysis here and click Hyper Voice, which will be enough to knock out this Snivy. Of course, he's not a Violite, and it would have hit his Totodile for a lot of damage if it had come in the following turn. And all this spike damage is really nice for me because he's putting himself closer in range of 2 knockoffs, factoring in being a Violite, which is kind of what I expect him to be at this stage. His damage hadn't revealed him to be a Life Orb. He's obviously Sheer Force, but he's not probably not Life Orb on this mon based on the damage he did to Spritzy earlier. So I am expecting him, like worst case scenario, to beat your Violite. We do outspeed him here and knock off his Violite, as he is going to go for the Crunch. And if he'd had like Dragon Dance or something there and Swords Dance, I always did have the Focus Sash in the back to be able to live a hit and knock him out the following turn. So that is going to be a really close game to Gator. This game, like it was over pretty quickly, but it was like there was a lot of thinking about the turns. I think you'll be able to see if Gator does a live com recording of this. Yeah, it was definitely a much longer game than this recording is going to suggest. So yeah, this was a very tense game. There was a lot of thinking back and forth, and yeah, very offensive. I feel like things just dropped from the beginning. It was just things dropping. So yeah, very fun game. I'm sure I'll probably play Gator later in the playoffs if we make it through the subsequent rounds, or however the playoff is going to work in the APA. I'm not so sure on that, but yeah, definitely a good game to Gator. It was a fun one. I think obviously the burn on Volibee was really bad for me. And on the opposite side of things, stuff like Spritzy living on 1, Meowth living on 1, I'm not really sure on those damage rolls, but if that was a damage roll, obviously that was unfortunate for Gator. So there was definitely some luck on both sides there, but yeah, overall it was definitely a solid game. Wouldn't be surprised if we face again. So yeah, it'll definitely be fun to face him later on if we do get the chance. Go check out his side of the match and let me know what you guys thought in the comments of this game. It was definitely fun to bring. I think this is the first time I've brought especially offensive Litleo. Usually I bring the Moxie set, so yeah, it was fun to bring Scarf Litleo, and it definitely put in work for the most part this game. So yeah, curious to hear what you guys thought of the game. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time.